Guys on this side, ladies on this side. Don't worry, guys. Hopefully you'll see her again. Looks like a junior high dance in here. All right, ladies on this side, gentlemen on this side, please. Are we all here, Penny? Okie doke. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, when the Pythians were here with the orphans, they kept the boys and girls separate. Even siblings weren't allowed to play together, talk, or really communicate at all. As a matter of fact, girls use this set of stairs, and guys use this one. So we'll hold true to that. Ladies, you go up this side. Gentlemen, you follow me. And we'll meet upstairs in the theater. Yes, sir. Techies for life. You know that. Yes, you may reunite with your partner. That's that song. Come on in and have a seat, ladies and gentlemen. No, we good? Smile. Oh, Ryan, you are right, aren't you? Okay. Somebody must have done that on one of the daytime tours. All right, we all here?
Yes.
Very good. Welcome to the theater. On a Friday night in 1914, you can see a film in here for 5 cents. It's like $13 now to see a movie in 3D. What we're going to do in here, I'm going to play you 3 EVPs recorded on previous tours. The first one I'm going to play you was recorded in March 2011. All three of these were recorded in the dungeon. There were about 30 people in the room with me that night. You're going to hear somebody scare the crap out of me. But then as the laughter dies down, we catch an EVP we've gotten several times in that room. Wait for it. Oh, hold on. Apple changed their settings on this stuff. Has anybody updated to iOS 7 yet?
Yes.
I hate it. All right, let's try this again.
Were you a criminal?
Oh, that scared me.
That's okay. All right, try that again. I've been here too long. Okay, try that again.
Were you a criminal?
Okay, I'm going to play it one more time. Don't say anything. That's okay. All right, try that again. I've been here too long. Okay, try that again.
Were you a criminal?
All right, what did that sound like to you guys?
Can't breathe.
Thank you. Yeah, we've gotten that one several times. It sounds like I can't breathe. We've gotten that one several times in that room. The next one I'm going to play you was recorded a few months later in July of 2011. There was two guys in the dungeon with me, and we just finished up an EVP session on the overnight investigation. Now, on the overnights, there's a meal provided at midnight, and we were sitting there eating, listening back on his little digital recorder. And we heard something that we didn't originally hear downstairs, but we couldn't make it out. So when we got here to the theater, I asked if I could plug the speaker, plug it into the big speakers, and then we heard this. I hate you, Apple.
What is your name?
One more time.
What is your name?
All right, what did that sound like? A lot of people think it sounds like a little girl saying Vivian, or Jillian, or Julian, or Lillian, or even a little boy saying William. We've had several people think it sounds like someone saying, "Come play with me." But I'll tell you, it's not that first response that gets me every time, it's the second one. The guys, to me, sounds like a little kid when they play by themselves. You know how children will hum to themselves? Now, the last one I'm going to play you was recorded on October 30th of last year. The gentleman then returned on December 26th to take the ghost tour again. And he played us as EVP downstairs on a digital recorder in the lobby. And to be quite honest, I wanted to call him a liar, because it just sounds like somebody trying to scare someone on the tour. Well, when I got to thinking about that, I know Penny and MJ's up here too, she'll agree with me. If we ever heard someone try to purposely scare someone on this tour, we would kick them out. It's too dangerous. So when we got up here to the theater, we plugged it into the big speakers, and all I got to say is, it's not just some guy saying something. You'll hear it.
That wasn't my fault. That was yours.
One more time.
That wasn't my fault. That was
Exactly. You know, a lot of people think it sounds like, "I've got you now, I'll gut you now, I'll cut you now." To be quite honest, I don't understand why it can't ever be, "Hey, how you doing? I brought ice cream." It's got to be something like that.
I've got your ice cream now.
Yes, yeah, I know. And to be honest, that one almost pushes the line for me as far as being scary, because we do often have little ones on this tour, and the last thing I want to do is send them home with nightmares. He's not quite there yet, but it pushes it. Now, before we move on, do we have any questions? Yes, speak loudly for me, and then I'll get you.
In one of the rooms, in one of the
I got you now. No.
not in the dungeon, but in the basement, in one of the cells,
Yeah.
there was like a stain on the wall. Was it paint? It almost looked like dried blood.
MJ, it's just paint, right?
In the,
In one of the POW cells?
It was the cell right next to the one that the Japanese prisoner was painting.
Oh, yeah, that's paint.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
Just checking.
You?
Do you know which seat it was in this theater that he was having a conversation with?
No, he was sitting on the floor right here.
Oh.
Good recall, though. Anybody else? Talk loud for me.
You said you were going to tell us how the child died or whatever.
The two children?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. And actually, I'll bring Penny in for this one, too. We had two girls that we know definitively died during the Pythian era because we have their death certificates. They were sisters. They died both at the age of 14, 3 years apart, both of respiratory ailments. They were named Mildred and Irene Bone. One had tuberculosis, one had strep. But the story doesn't end there. Penny?
Well, we were doing some research on people that were buried at Hazelwood Cemetery, which is where a lot of the Pythians were buried if they died while they were living here. The two girls were listed in the cemetery records as being buried there, but they were not buried there until July of 1961. They both died in the 1920s. And it said reinterred July 1961. And the oldest girl, when she died, I found a newspaper article that said that she was shipped to St. Louis. The second girl, when she died, I didn't find any paperwork on her. But we don't know where those two girls were buried between the 1920s and 1961 when they were moved back here. And also, there were no longer Pythians here that were involved in the castle. That was gone. Military had this by then. Now, they may have been in the area, but I don't know what would be the catalyst that would have had been shipped and moved back here.
And where were they for those 40 years?
Where were they?
So, not only are they the two children that we know died during the Pythian era, but we kind of feel partial to them because what happened to them? I mean, it took 40 years to get to the final resting place. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Good. Anybody else? Oh, wow. Okay. You, then you.
Why don't you go into the one area?
Oh, I did. I forgot to tell you about the tunnel. Okay. When they were here filming Children of the Grave, the filmmakers went in the tunnel and started poking the bear. Remember what I said about that? Don't do it. Well, they did, and they started getting responses to their questions in the form of raps on that great big pipe that runs down the tunnel. So they got a little more emboldened and a little more aggressive. Well, then they all heard an audible growl. Turned their cameras down to the end of the tunnel, and there was a large, black, human-shaped mass slowly moving down the tunnel towards them, accompanied by the footsteps that have chased me out of that room more times than I can count. Now, that's scary in itself, but it's television. But it caused a memory for me. I used to take every historical tour into that tunnel. It's a fun way to use a few minutes of the tour. But more than 3/4 of the time, people would get about halfway down and go, "Hello? Hello?" They would see someone at the end of the tunnel waving at them, and there was never anybody there. Now, about 2 months ago, that's when I stopped going in. About 2 months ago, we had a film crew here from Shadowbound, that web series that I've been telling you about tonight that has its world premiere, the first 2 episodes Halloween night in this very room. Check the website for reservation details. Anyway, I was walking the filmmakers through the basement, and I thought, they might like to hear some scary stories. I was wrong. We couldn't get 2 of them to come back down to the basement. I thought, you're filming a horror web series. Apparently, they didn't want to hear that stuff while they're working. I took the creator and the director into the steam tunnel, and by that I mean I went in the entrance and said, "Goodbye, you're on your own." Again, he got about halfway down and went, "Huh." He came back out and said, "Who do you have down there?" I said, "Nobody." He said, "There's a big, tall man in a brown suit going like this to me, like trying to get me to get out of the tunnel. And when I didn't go, he just went like this. And then turned around and walked to the back of the tunnel." That's why I don't go in there. Anybody else? You had a question.
My question was that last question.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, I have one more room to show you tonight. Oh, did you have a question?
No, I'm just playing my hair.
Very good. Carry on. One more room to show you tonight, but before we go there, I have a question. Do you like the building?
Yes.
It's lovely, isn't it? The ladies that own this place have had to work so hard to make it look this nice. The last room we're going to show you is the boys' dormitory. Now you're going to step back in time to 2003 and see what this place looked like when they took it over. Actually, if you ask them, they'll tell you it's quite a bit cleaner now than it was then. But you'll see it compared to all of this and realize what a daunting task this must have been for them and how overwhelming it must have been that cold November in 2003. And I've got a good story to finish up the tour. Now, boys and girls can mingle again. We can use both these doors. Just follow me.
No, man, we're listening to these in the bar. Oh, yeah. Now, in those cells, that's where the prisoners are.
Oh, you're talking about the circles on the ceiling? That's a piece of the wall tower. Come on in, so we follow you. I know. It makes it hard to tell the story without the walls. All right, ladies and gentlemen, come in and get somewhere where you're comfortable because the lights are going off. Going dark in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the boys' dormitory. It's a little bit different from the rest of the building, isn't it? The whole castle looked like this when they moved in 2003. My first official ghost tour was Friday the 13th, August 2010. I had 26 people on the tour that night. We got into this room and they asked if they could run an EVP session. I said, sure. They got their equipment out and I had just said in in English, if there's anyone here that would like to communicate, now's the time. No sooner did I say that than the room exploded. Boom! 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 Like cannons going off, and it filled with all this different colored light. Well, the Cardinals had won in the stadium across Chestnut Expressway, and they were shooting their fireworks off. I had 26 people shooting for that door in the dark. Number 27 was the tour guide. I tell you that to tell you this. You remember Margaret, the sensitive from the Paranormal Task Force that I mentioned? This was October 2010, a couple of months later. On one of the overnight investigations, Margaret comes to me and asks if I would like to walk through the building with her. I said, sure. Often I'll get a good story, the tour, or get some questions answered. Well, she got to that door and looked down and said, hello. Yeah. Yeah, she's talking to somebody I don't see. She says, there's a little boy here. And his name is Pete, or Peter, or Petey. And he's glad I can see him because he's got something he wants to say. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can see this line on the floor here. Up until a couple of months ago, there was a raised platform, a raised floor. And if you look at the wall and ceiling over here, you can still see the line where that used to be walled in. Well, anyway, Margaret said, she motions in this direction and says, he hates these walls. Well, she didn't understand, but I knew they weren't original. This room was originally open like this. She says, there's one weird thing that he's doing. He's hiding something behind his back. When she asks him what he has, he shows her a great big rubber ball. And I'm not talking about one of those little quarter jobs out of the gumball machine. I'm talking about those big pink things that smells like a pencil eraser. He's afraid we're going to take it away from him, because he says it bothers the old ladies. Again, she didn't understand, but I did. On the other side of that wall was the widow's dormitory. And you have 20 older ladies in there trying to sleep. And some fool kid with that great big rubber ball on these hardwood floors all times of the day and night. Now, Petey tells us when he got in trouble for this ball, all of the boys in the room got in trouble. And so sometimes those bigger boys got sick of it, took his ball from him, and chucked it out that window. Which made the owner's ears perk up, because apparently at least once a month, they'll be downstairs in their private kitchen, and they will see and hear something get hurled out that window, hit the ground, and there's never anything there. So at this point, I decided, because she's hitting some things just on the head too well. So I decided I'm going to test Margaret. But before I can do that, she scrunches her face up and says, I don't get this. But he's really excited. He wants me to tell you that the night the room exploded with all the people was really fun. He got real creeped out real quick. But I pressed on. I'm going to test Margaret. Now, you remember Mildred, the little orphan lady that I mentioned. Mildred tells us when she got here in 1928, the administrator, or guy in charge, was named Dr. Patterson. And that all of the orphans just loved that man. He was a wonderful, kindly old gentleman that took great care of these kids. Now his replacements, however, not so much. Mr. and Mrs. Gay. Mildred said that Mr. Gay was handsy and not in a good way, and we'll leave it at that. So, I said, Margaret, does Petey know who Dr. Patterson is? And she smiled real big and said, oh my gosh, he loves that man. It's like his grandpa. All the orphans just love that man. I said, okay, does Petey know who Mr. Gay is? And she scrunched her face up and said, don't you mention that man's name. He's scared to death. He's huddled in the corner over here. He's so frightened.